What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Xehther here, and I'm back at it again to drop part 2 for the series of What If Naruto Was the Reincarnation of Meliodas, as it should have been titled, or the thumbnail and title of the video, What If Naruto Had Full Counter. So we last left off with the Chunin exams being introduced, and originally I was going to be dropping this as the first part covering part 1 of Naruto with the second covering part 2. But after I realized how OP Naruto was going to be getting by like the end of the Chunin exams, I was like, there's not gonna be a part 2. There won't be anybody powerful enough to make me have to make a part anything after this. So this is really the finale of this series. So if you guys did enjoy first part and the second part, then please consider going down below and smashing that like button, seeing as it truly does help out with the algorithm, and it lets other people like yourself find the video and click on it and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Lets other people go through that same experience. With that being said though, guys, I do hope you guys go on to enjoy the video.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
So we kickstart part 2 off with Naruto essentially being in being informed about the Chunin exams. Obviously Kakashi on the last part ended up telling Hiruzen about what happened on the mission, and Kakashi did end up seeing Naruto's sort of demonic form. However, nobody knows about this, and they don't even know about mana or what Naruto's power truly comes from. It comes from him being the reincarnation of Meliodas and having these demonic abilities. And it's like a thing where Naruto kind of does things without knowing what he does, because it's kind of like Ultra Instinct, where your body just does things because your body simply knows what to do, but your mind is kind of stopping yourself from doing those things, if that makes sense. Where it's like anything that you want to do, you can put your mind to, but some things are just, they have a halt on them. And Naruto has this incredible potential of just being, Naruto himself and the reincarnation of Meliodas that just skyrockets. And with that said, Naruto has all of the powers of Meliodas within himself. He just doesn't know how to mentally prepare himself to use any of these abilities. So after everything basically ended up happening with with Konohamaru and all this stuff, everybody is essentially told about the Chunin exams, and they all agreed to take it all together. Guys, sorry if you heard like an airplane going by, my apologies. But to keep going the story going, essentially everybody has their own ideas of what they're going to do to mentally prepare themselves and physically prepare themselves for the Chunin exams. When it comes to Sasuke, he simply trains himself physically. When it comes to Hinata, she kind of takes it easy and during the nighttime likes to train by herself, you know what I mean, in the dark, to try to impress Naruto-kun. What's something that I noticed in part 1? A lot of people were going down below in the comments and crucifying me for saying Naruto-kun, because they said never say it again. And you know what? I'm gonna say it one more time for the people in the back. Naruto-kun. But yeah, Hinata, she's being a huge massive simp. And when it comes to Naruto, what Naruto does is during the first day, he actually tries to wield Zabuza's blade, but he ends up realizing, he doesn't really like the feel of it. So what he does is ends up going to a weapon shop, and when he enters it, he notices someone very familiar, this being Tenten. And when he walks inside, he's like, Tenten? And she's like, oh, hey Naruto. As Naruto just looks at her and says, you work here? And she's like, yep. And Naruto just proceeds to be like, well, can you do something with this? As he drops the blade, and Tenten immediately looks at that blade and without any hesitation is just like, how did you get this? Naruto just says that, he got it after defeating Zabuza, and Tenten is just like shocked at the fact that Naruto was able to defeat a shinobi that was that powerful. Sorry for my squeaky chair, guys. But At this point, Naruto asks for her to make him a weapon suitable for his body. And she looks at him once and says, don't worry, come back in a week and I promise it'll be made. So 1 week later, Naruto enters the shop once again and she's basically putting on the finishing touches. I got this inspiration from Izu, not gonna lie. I watched the Sunshine series and I thought this was a great idea, so I'm integrating it myself. Please, Izu, don't be mad at me. But Naruto just proceeds to essentially grab the blade. And when he looks at it, he sees the blade. It's a smaller version with a green hilt and like a gold handle, as well as like, a normal silver blade. Naruto looks at this and it looks exactly like Lost Vein, as he just is like, yo, this is sick. As he proceeds to just like hit it across the table and it breaks, and Naruto was just like, oh, as it literally regenerates. The blade is unbreakable, and Naruto would just look at Tenten as she's like, please get out. As Naruto grabs the blade and just walks up out of there, he's like, sorry about that. She's like, don't worry. And at this point, Naruto quite literally leaves the shop. It's at this point that all of them finally have their, like 6 more days to prep for the tuning exams. And it's at this point that all of them have their own little trials to see if they already happen. Now Naruto passes his with flying colors, and the rest of the Team 7 does as well. So they're all finally essentially walking over towards the Genin place where they were all, where it all started for the tuning exams. And when they do this, they end up walking in there to be greeted by Genjutsu, which all of them of course are able to identify and break out of. But once they do break out of it, they notice that a boy with like whitish eyes similar to Hinata begins to walk near them. A boy with a green jumpsuit and Tenten walks really close to them. Immediately, like Lee wants to say something like Sasuke Uchiha, but before he can even say anything, Neji would walk in front of Lee and hold his hand out as he just walks over to Hinata and says, Lady Hinata, what are you doing here? As Hinata just like twiddles her fingers and is like, I'm here too. Naruto steps in front of Hinata and says, you got some kind of problem with my teammate, buddy? As Neji looks at him and smiles, saying, that piece of garbage behind you will never be worthy to the name that she holds with herself. She's part of the Branch family, but she's nothing but garbage. I should have been in that position. And it's at this point that Naruto hearing this is like, look, I don't know what any of this Branch family stuff means, but you better back up quickly or else. As Neji smirks and hits Naruto with 5 palms, like he just smacks him with 5 of his palms, and Naruto gets like sent back, but he like quite literally grabs Neji's arm on the last one and looks up at him as his eyes turn into like a black aura, and Neji sees this and is just like, okay. Naruto would begin to grip tightly as he would literally fracture Neji's hand. As at this point, Neji like rips his arm away and looks at Hinata, as he would look at her, smile and say, I'll see you inside. And as he walks away, he would be thinking, that kid was so powerful. As it's at this point that Lee would ask Neji what's wrong, and Neji would say, it's nothing, Lee. As they all walk off, and the Sasuke versus Lee fight would never happen. After this, we have the written portion of the tuning exams, which I will be skipping respectfully, and then we have the force of death. Obviously, Anko jumps in straight through the roof and says, hey, so Maggots, meet me outside. You guys are going to be taking your physical portion now. Go outside. You're probably going to die. And a lot of them would be like, yo, what? Like, how are you just casually saying this? Like, how are you just casually looking at us and being like, yeah, you're going to die, man. Like, don't worry, but it's all good though. As she hands out these waivers, everybody signs them. And in this version, we actually don't have any weird scene with Orochimaru. And so what ends up just happening is all the Team 7 goes inside, and at this point, Naruto and Sasuke are actually feeling pretty cocky, thinking that they're about to break the record on this. So Naruto and Sasuke would immediately look for a team, and they would find one, as they would end up taking a scroll, and by the time that they're heading back towards the middle tower, they would actually be stopped by a ninja hidden in the grass, as this ninja is obviously Orochimaru, but they don't know this yet. And at this point, Orochimaru would lick his lips as he would stare at them and say, Sasuke Uchiha, just getting a huge, like, how do I put this? Hard on, as he looks at Sasuke, and Sasuke just looks at Orochimaru with like a weird expression saying, Naruto, as Naruto just stands like right beside Sasuke and says, don't worry, we can handle this guy. He would look at Hinata and say, Hinata, just go on ahead, we'll take care of this guy. Hinata would say, right, as she would walk off, and it's at this point that Naruto and Sasuke would look at Orochimaru as, you know, Naruto and Sasuke would both rush at Orochimaru. Now, Orochimaru would actually be very shocked at the level of strength that Sasuke and Naruto were both displaying, because they're actually not a joke whatsoever. Sasuke is about as strong as he would be by the time that he faces Gaara, which is a very, very big upgrade when in comparison to, you know, what he normally is. And I would say that Sasuke is about that, plus a little teeny tiny bit more. I'm just gonna say that. All right, he obviously doesn't have access to the Chidori or anything, but his base strength is very formidable. That being said, Naruto and Sasuke continue to fight Orochimaru, and it's kind of like an even battle until eventually Sasuke ends up shooting a fireball which melts off Orochimaru's mask. And when Orochimaru's cover is blown, he simply begins to reveal more and more of his power, and it actually causes Sasuke to be terrified to the point where his body just like stiffens up and he's not able to move. And it's at this point that Orochimaru would literally like stretch his neck out to bite Sasuke, but Naruto would kick him, and at this point Sasuke would just be looking at him fighting, thinking, move, damn it, move, just looking at himself wishing that he could move, but he's terrified. And it's at this point that Naruto is fighting against Orochimaru, and at this point he's still thinking, don't worry Sasuke, I got this, as he's not angry yet, but you know, he's bothered at the fact that, you know, he has this much of a hard time fighting against somebody. But at this point, Orochimaru would begin to use more of his advanced jutsus, actually causing Naruto to be paralyzed, as he would grab Naruto, hold him by the hair, as he would pick his head, like his head up, and make him watch as he extends his neck, and Sasuke is just like barely able to react. He jumps away and Orochimaru bites a tree stump. But then Orochimaru would create a clone, as a clone would rush at Sasuke, and it would proceed to body him, as it then bites Sasuke on the neck, and Sasuke falls from the trees from a very big height as he hits the ground with a loud thump, and he screams, Naruto! And at this point, Naruto would have watched that entire thing, literally being made to watch. Naruto would have like a small like tear come down his face, as he's like, I'm so weak. And all of these weird different emotions would start to spiral up in Naruto's head, as he would say, get off of me! As he would just look at Orochimaru, and at this point his aura would explode, as he would then begin to simply just like smile. And at this point, Naruto's like arms would drop down to the ground, as he would then proceed to basically like let it all loose and expand his aura, as all of his like darkness would just start to surround Naruto. And at this point, Naruto twitches as he looks straight at Orochimaru in his demonic form, as he would proceed to shoot a dark black orb straight from his mouth, which would literally incinerate Orochimaru. Every fiber of his being was eliminated. Orochimaru, he's dead. He's not coming back. And at this point, Naruto would then turn to Sasuke on instinct, mind you. And before I don't establish this properly, Naruto was not simply using normal demonic form. Naruto just tapped into assault mode, or a percentage of it, not a complete version, but like half of the power of assault mode, which is why he was able to single-handedly obliterate Orochimaru. Now, I'm not going to be holding the powers back of like Meliodas for the sake of the story, because Meliodas' power is insane, like when you really think about it, and he's at least a planet buster. So to say that his assault mode isn't insanely powerful would just be a complete disjustice, you know what I mean? So, you know, we basically have it, to which he would turn to Sasuke based on nothing but instinct, mind you, as he begins to walk towards Sasuke's direction. But Naruto's body would quite literally give up, as his body would just collapse in front of Sasuke, and he would like slowly pass out into unconsciousness. As it's at this point that Hinata would be wondering why Naruto and Sasuke haven't, you know, arrived. So she would run back to where, you know, they were fighting, and notices, you know, her team is in just utter like shambles. It's at this point that she would grab Naruto and Sasuke and say, Naruto, as, you know, she just literally is trying to nurse them back to health. But it's at this point that the three sound genin would arrive, and they would try to jump Hinata, but Lee, just like always, ends up jumping in right on time to save Hinata. Now, I do believe that a combo of Neji and, no, not Neji, but Lee, as well as Hinata, would definitely be a formidable, you know, team to fight against these guys. So I'm just going to be saying that for convenience sake, they end up winning. And after this, they end up basically all going to the tower. And when they do make it to the tower, I'm just gonna say that, you know, they made it pretty fast. They made it after the sand team, which, you know, they weren't the best, but, you know, they still made it very, very fast. Almost enough to beat Minato's record himself. And after this, we basically have it to which Naruto would proceed to essentially wake up in the tower as he snaps out of it and looks at Hinata, as Hinata's just like, Naruto, as, you know, she's putting those warm cloths on his head, and Naruto just looks at her and says, hey Hinata. Naruto would look at her as she's like, don't worry too much. She like holds him down and says, don't really fret too much. And Naruto just weakly tries to get up, and she's like, he begins to chuckle saying, I'm so weak, right? As Hinata would just say, no Naruto, you're powerful. But Naruto would then look at her and say, wait, where's Sasuke? Not remembering what happened after he lost control. And Sasuke would be right beside him as he would say, hey loser. And at this point, he was already treated by Kakashi for his curse mark. And so Naruto looks at him and says, you must think I'm pretty pathetic, huh? As Sasuke says, no, you actually obliterated that guy from what I remember. The memory's fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure you won, Naruto. What was that power? Naruto would rub his head as it kind of hurts, and he would just be like, I don't know. And it's at this point that Kakashi would come in the room being like, yo, as everybody's like, Kakashi sensei. He would then proceed to explain that the battles are actually about to start right now, and telling Naruto that he has about 30 minutes probably to get in check because the first elimination battles are going to happen right now. And so we basically have it to which everybody goes out there, and Naruto basically his battle would arrive. Now when that happens, Naruto would go out there and look at Kiba, and Kiba is just thinking, they gave me the weakest opponent, a hurt dog. I'm gonna, you know, defeat this kid so easily. But Naruto would proceed to wipe the floor with Kiba. Like, when I say it's not even a joke, it's like not funny how bad Kiba gets beaten. Like, it's so quick and simple that Kiba is just embarrassed. Like, he was all bark no bite, just like, you know, his dog. And yeah, Naruto ended up winning that battle, and afterwards Naruto was very, very, very drained. So what ends up happening after this is the Hinata versus Neji battle happens, and Neji proceeds to hurt, and I mean hurt Hinata, but Sasuke and the Jonin were able to jump down there and stop Neji before he could deal the finishing blow. And when Naruto was out over here passed out, you know, recovering, he ends up getting word that Hinata got hurt very, very badly. And when Naruto hears this, he gets very angry, respectably so, and he just vows to destroy Neji whenever their battle happens. So from here, we have about a 1 week break, and Naruto stays in the hospital for about one more day, recovering all of his energy, essentially saying that, you know, this battle that he's about to have with Neji, he's going to utterly embarrass him. Like, he is going to destroy Neji and take away his entire ability to be a shinobi as it stands, because nobody is going to hurt like a teammate of his, somebody who he finds so close. And with that said, we basically have it so that Naruto begins to train for the next 4 days, until one day he decides that he wants to take a little bit of a break and ends up going to some hot springs. Now, it's here when he goes to these hot springs that he would end up basically seeing a man with white hair. I also forgot to mention, Sasuke still does go train with Kakashi, and Naruto and Sasuke had a little, bro moment when they, clashed knuckles, and they said that, you better get stronger. Sasuke said the same to Naruto, and, Naruto ends up just going on his own way. But that said, as I said, Naruto sees a man with white hair peeking over the thing, and he walks over to him and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Immediately Jiraiya's like, shh, 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 shh. "Look, kid, if you stay quiet, I'll let you watch." And Naruto would be like, "Watch what?" As Jiraiya's just like, "Get on here, kid." And he proceeds to basically put Naruto on his shoulders, saying, "Try not to get steam." As Naruto looks into the bathing section of the women and sees a bunch of kunoichis, a bunch of peachy girls. So Naruto just looks in there and he's like, "Yo!" And he almost gets caught, but Jiraiya pulls him down and he's like, "What are you doing, kid? You want to try to get us killed?" As Naruto's just like, "Oh no." And they go back to peeking for about 5 minutes And Jiraiya just looks at Naruto and he says, "I like your style, kid." Naruto just looks at Jiraiya and says, "Yeah, so who are you, old man?" As Jiraiya would say, "Well, be ready to be shocked, cause I'm the legendary Sannin Jiraiya." You know, trying to be all cool and mystical. But Naruto would be like, "What's a Sannin?" And Jiraiya would be like, "Ain't no way this boy don't know what the Sannin are." As he would proceed to be like, "You've never heard about the Toad Sage Jiraiya?" Naruto's like, "Never heard of you, bro." And Jiraiya just like, he's like, "I guess my reputation doesn't perceive me." As he simply just looks at Naruto and says, "All right, nothing, don't worry about it, kid." As Naruto's like, "I wasn't worrying about it." At this point, Jiraiya gets a little, a little irritated, just a little bit. And we basically have it to which after this, Naruto kind of just proceeds to do his own thing, I guess you could say. Like, he really doesn't have anything going on now, and he proceeds to essentially like keep talking to Jiraiya. I would honestly go into more depth with like what interactions they really have, because it would be a really funny thing to do. But this isn't What If Naruto's Meliodas' reincarnation and had a lot of cute moments with Pervy Sage. It's What If Naruto was Meliodas' reincarnation. So he does meet Pervy Sage, and some of his personality from Jiraiya ends up rubbing off on Naruto, which is where Naruto will finally discover what it is to perv and just be normal Meliodas. And he actually finds it like very, nice. Naruto likes to do that. And Jiraiya just kind of put him onto his own ways. So yeah, at this point, we basically have it to which, they all have their moments, and Naruto ends up learning a couple of jutsus from Jiraiya. This being the Rasengan, because he has immaculate chakra control. He doesn't have to waste any time trying to learn the Kyuubi's power. The summoning jutsu, to which he's actually able to summon the giant toad the first time, like the first time, and stay on him for the entire day, meaning that the gigantic toad, the chief toad, actually did believe that Naruto was the one to summon him. And after this, we basically end up having Naruto talk to Jiraiya during this time about a power that Naruto feels is dwelling inside of him, something that he can only access in moments of great distress. So Jiraiya would think, he'd be like, and what's it called? Naruto would just be waiting for what Jiraiya is gonna say. As Jiraiya would say, "Look, kid, I honestly don't know what it is you're going through, but meditation has always helped me." As he would proceed to look at Naruto and say, "Let's go back to those hot springs where I met you." As they would go back, and on this day, Naruto would be told to meditate by Jiraiya. Naruto would close his eyes as he would enter his mindscape, and here he would see a different version of himself. It looks like himself, but he has this black assault mode armor on himself, as he just looks at him and calls him weak. He has these dark eyes. Naruto just looks into like a complete total opposite of what he's like now, and it's just like, what the, as he snaps right back out of it, because the evil version of Naruto, or the Meliodas demon half, just kind of kicked him out of his domain. And so after this, Naruto would tell Jiraiya of what he saw, and Jiraiya would end up basically telling Naruto that he's going to have to face this challenge on his own. This isn't something that normal training will be able to help. And so that kind of concludes the 1 month of training. After this, we end up basically having a fight between Neji and Naruto, but it's just embarrassing for Neji. Like, honestly, it is just not fun. Naruto proceeds to enter the arena, right? He walks on in there, and Neji's talking a smack, telling Naruto that he's gonna do the same thing that he did to Hinata. Now, Naruto, hearing that, would actually end up basically getting very, very, very enraged. And when this does happen, what ends up happening is basically one of Naruto's eyes turns black, and Naruto's power gets amped by 50%. So he blitzes at Neji at speeds that Neji couldn't perceive, and he ends up punching him 128 times. And Neji falls onto the ground and is just rushed, like I mean rushed, to medical ninjas. And they put this man on life support. All right, like they put this man on chakra support. You know what I mean? This man is hurt. And yeah, he would destroy Neji. And I bet many of you guys are wondering, how did he hit him 128 times? Come on now, bro. He's using like clones. It's pretty obvious. But if you needed to be told that, it's all good. Anyways, though, this is when Naruto would basically look around after that battle, and he would see that some people actually look terrified of him. And so Naruto snaps out of his partial demonic mode as, the Sasuke versus Gaara fight ends up happening, to which, Gaara ends up going crazy. And because Orochimaru is actually dead, there's not actually going to be any attack on the Leaf Village. So this Chunin exams arc really doesn't end up panning out to be as long as it should be. With Gaara going crazy, Naruto fighting Gaara, none of that stuff ends up happening. Instead, what happens is when Gaara ends up trying to essentially break out of the Chunin exams arena, Naruto literally sees him, blitzes in front of him, kicks him back into the arena and says the fight's that way. As Sasuke would smirk and look at Naruto and then proceed to rush at Gaara's direction. As Sasuke this time proceeds to stab a Chidori right into Gaara and win the battle. As the next battle would be none other than Sasuke versus Naruto. Now the way that this would go is Naruto would look at Sasuke as he says, "You ready?" And Sasuke says, "I'm ready." He would then look at Naruto as he would say, "And don't hold back." As Naruto would look at him and say, "I wouldn't dream of it." It's at this point that Sasuke would say, "I've been working on a little technique of sorts." As Naruto would say, "Yeah, what is it?" And Sasuke would say, "You'll see." As he would rush in at Naruto's direction, and Naruto would proceed to kick at Sasuke's area, but Sasuke would weave as he comes in, grabs his leg and tries to spin him off. But Naruto would do a little bit of a cartwheel as he comes away from him and throws a bunch of shuriken at Sasuke's direction. Sasuke would immediately jump on into the air as he would say, "Fire staff, fireball jutsu." And Naruto would immediately take out Lost Vein in an instant as he says, "Full counter!" But Sasuke already got out of the way and the attack didn't end up hitting him. Sasuke would smile as he would say, "I knew you would do that, Naruto." And he would rush in at him as he would begin to try to use taijutsu. Now when it does come to taijutsu, Sasuke is completely outclassed. There's no way in hell Sasuke is going to be beating Naruto in taijutsu. So Sasuke jumps back and says, "Naruto, I knew you were going to be powerful, but this, I wasn't expecting I'd actually have to use this on you." He would pick up this gigantic a spear as he would say, "You better survive this." As he would grab the end of the spear and hold up a bunch of hand signs as he would say, "Chidori!" And a bunch of electricity would start being channeled into the spear. As Sasuke would hold the spear up, run to the top of the Chunin exams, as he would jump off the building, and when he's coming down, he would throw the spear right at Naruto's direction. As Naruto would smirk, stand holding his ground, and in a scene so reminiscent to that of when he caught Gil Thunder's little bow staff. No, I literally just said it. His pokey thingy. I forgot the name of it, even though I've said it 5 times already, but you guys know what I mean. The lance or something like that. He would grab it and spin it back around, throwing it right at Sasuke's direction. As it would end up hitting the side of Sasuke's face, causing him to get a scar right across his cheek, and half of his hair would be blown off. As Sasuke just stands there just completely baffled at what just happened. Naruto would then rush at Sasuke's direction as he would say, "Shadow Clone Jutsu!" And a bunch of Narutos would just appear as he would then proceed to say, "Revenge! Counter!" And a gigantic blast of electricity would shoot right back at Sasuke. Because, while you may or may not believe it, the lance, the Chidori stream, it went through Naruto's body. But he was able to channel it and shoot it right back at Sasuke at 2 times the power. So Sasuke, he got taken out pretty decently, if I do say so myself. That being said, at this point, Naruto would smile as he would basically look around at the crowd and everybody would just be going haywire. Everybody is excited. And that essentially concludes the Chunin exams. After this, Naruto would go to Hinata's room where she's laying down in the hospital, and he would come in with some roses and fruit and stuff like that, telling her, "Hey, I won." As Sasuke's actually there too, standing by the door saying, "What's up?" Hinata would be like, "Oh, Naruto, you won?" And Naruto would actually be telling her that, yeah, he's officially a Chunin now. As Hinata would say, "I'm so happy for you." Naruto would, look at Hinata as he just proceeds to simply smile at her direction. And, he's, you know, he's just doing his thing. Not gonna lie, I had to stop the recording because I got interrupted, but I'm just gonna pick back off where I was. So Naruto looks at Hinata and he basically ends up briefing her on what just happened. You know what I mean? He ends up telling her how he won the battle against Sasuke and how like the Gaara kid ended up going haywire and ended up being basically taken back to his village, where a bunch of stuff ends up actually changing on the side of the Sand Village. See, Gaara is never taught no jutsu by Naruto, so he doesn't end up turning good. Instead, he kind of just keeps spiraling down this path of insanity until eventually his own village kind of doesn't even want him. The one-tail Shukaku becomes kind of a liability to the village because instead of being an asset, it just doesn't do any good for them. So Gaara just kind of stays around the village but kind of deserts it in a way. And when it comes to like what happens after this with Hiruzen and all that stuff, he still does want to retire, seeing as, you know, he's pretty old, you know what I mean? So he would try to retire. He would try to retire and Dad tried to talk to me, but he would try to retire. And at this point he would essentially ask Jiraiya, hey, you want to become Hokage? Jiraiya would be like, absolutely not, I'm not becoming no Hokage. As you know, Hiruzen is just like, oh, well then I guess you're gonna have to find someone else, because if you don't, you're gonna be the Hokage. And immediately Jiraiya would rush out of that room. As he goes to Naruto's house, it goes, Naruto, we gotta go. Naruto would look at Jiraiya as he opens the door out groggily, and Jiraiya grabs his arm as he yanks him out of the room and says, let's go. And at this point, they would begin a 1-week journey trying to find Tsunade. Honestly, if this scene was to be animated, it would be so perfect, but you know, it's not. And so this is when we have the Itachi versus Kakashi versus my guy versus Kurenai versus Asuma stuff happening. Sasuke ends up getting wind of the fact that, you know, all this is going down, and Naruto during this 1-week journey with Jiraiya just ends up having the time of his life. You know, it's just the best time ever. You know what I mean? He's just having such a great time. You know what I mean? And that is, you know, kind of just how everything is kind of going down for the time being. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that is a perfect place to leave this story off. The next part will be covering the fight with Itachi versus Naruto. How will Sasuke take like seeing Naruto fighting Itachi on an even level? How would that affect Sasuke's psyche? Orochimaru's gone. How is Sasuke gonna leave the village? Tsunade might train, you know, all this crazy stuff. Like what? You know, I'm not gonna try to spoil too much, but I feel like I already kind of gave away what I'm gonna do in the next part. But with that being said, I hope you guys do smash the like button, seeing as I am going to be needing a grand total of 1,000 likes if you guys do want the finale for this series. Now, when the finale drops, I really want to emphasize this. It is going to be a movie, okay? It's going to be in movie format, and the ending is going to be in a timestamp that I will be saying in the intro of the video. But with that being said, I hope you guys do enjoy today's part. Smash that like button as well as share the video with a friend. But with that being said, it has been your boy Xehther, and I am signing out. Peace.